welcome back to the Jet Press Podcast. My name is Justin Freed, and I'm joined as always by my friend Mike. I forget your middle name, Luciano. Mike, how you doing, buddy? What's going on?
Middle name is Joseph for further nominal purposes. So, with that rousing introduction, I'm feeling okay. Feeling pretty good, mostly just because, again, Aaron Rodgers is my quarterback, as we say all the time, and we're only a couple weeks away from week one of the most anticipated Jets season in over a decade, maybe even more than that. I mean, we got Aaron Rodgers now. This is to paraphrase Tommy Wiseau, the great Tommy Wiseau. This is no Mickey Mouse shit. We are going for a Super Bowl. And as we're going for a Super Bowl, we mostly just got to do a little bit of fine-tuning around the edges, checking off the end of the roster, figuring out who's going to make the roster, which, as Justin will let us know, we're going to get into on the show.
Yes, sir. Yeah. First of all, Joseph, I'm not going to forget that now. I will remember that.
All right.
Yeah, man, we got a great show planned. You're talking plenty of Mekhi Becton, everything with the offensive line. I think we're going to have a different tune about the offensive line than we did a week ago at this time. We're recapping everything that happened on Hard Knocks last night, doing each of our own 53-man roster predictions. So definitely stick around for that. That's going to be really cool. Also talking a little bit Jets-Giants, previewing the last preseason game of the summer. I know the Jets have played an extra preseason game, so it feels like it's dragged on. It feels like it's gone on too long at this stage, but we are almost here. We're almost at week one, and we're almost ready for the show. But first, Mike, hit us with something.
Well, it's a little message from our friends at DraftKings. So, Jets fans, have you signed up for DraftKings yet? Because if you're a new user, you could receive $150 in bonus bets instantly after following just 3 steps. Create an account, make a deposit, and then wager $5 on any sport. Doesn't matter if your first wager wins or loses. You'll still get the $150 in bonus bets. All you got to do is use the code FSBETS, that is FSBETS, when you sign up. When you use the code, not only do you get the bonus, but supports the podcast. So if you want to help us that way, feel more than free. Use our code FSBETS to maximize your first bets. This offer is only available for new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts.
Whoa.
What'd I do?
No. We got some breaking news. I was going to cut you off in the ad read. We have some breaking news involving another Jets wide receiver during this show. According to Connor Hughes, Corey Davis is retiring from the NFL.
Corey Davis is retiring.
My God. All right.
Okay. Not even. So first, to find out more, let's just get it out of the way quick. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, wherever it may be, you get your podcast. We are there. We're on YouTube at the Jet Press, and we are on TikTok at the Jet Press. So that is where you can find all of our great content over there as we try to get a graphic hastily set up to talk about Corey Davis retiring from the NFL.
Wow. All right.
So let me just make some 53-man roster alterations now that this is already out the window. My goodness, Corey Davis retiring. Now, he did release a statement on Instagram. I have it right here. May I take the liberty, Justin, of reading it?
Please, absolutely. I didn't even know he did. Please.
Okay, Corey Davis. For some time now, I've been contemplating stepping away from the sport of football. This decision has not been easy. Although I'm a deep person, I'm a man of few words. I have been searching my heart for what to do, and I feel that stepping away from the game is the best path for me at this time. I have more blessings than I could have ever imagined. I have an amazing family, a beautiful wife, and 2 healthy children that I look forward to spending more time with. I am truly grateful for all the opportunities I have had and will continue to have on my journey. Thank you to my family and friends and the Jets organization for supporting me during this process. So, Corey Davis retires from the NFL right before a lot of people thought he might have been the number 2 wide receiver on the depth chart. That plan has been hastily dashed because he is no longer in the NFL. And this seems like this whole personal matter really was him kind of having an existential moment of what am I doing playing football right now? Because it is not, if he retired because he's like, you know what, I've put all this time in, I'm on another bad team, it's another year of Zach Wilson, like I don't want to put my body through it physically. I feel like a lot of people would understand that. And I get why he's doing this too, but the fact that he did it when Aaron Rodgers is his quarterback now, and he still said, this is too much, I'm done. Like that's a pretty firm commitment there. I don't think this is going to change. I I don't think this is going to change. I don't know if it's going to be an unretiring kind of thing. So if we look back at his career, 6 seasons in the NFL, 4 with the Titans, 2 with the Jets, in 19 starts and 22 games, 66 catches, 1,028 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Didn't have the best quarterback play to support him, but I will say that I'll give him this too. This dude worked his ass off the entire time he was with there. No one can ever accuse him of just getting the money and not trying hard. He was a leader. He was a guy that people trusted. And he was somebody that, even though it would have made sense to cut him and free up cap space, Robert Saleh said, no, I'm not cutting Corey Davis. He's one of my guys. He's going to be on this team if I have my say. And he's going to be one of our top receivers. And they held on to him. But it looks like Corey Davis just personally is putting his family first, or his health first, or his mental health first. And he is retiring from the NFL. I'm stunned, but you know what? I get where Corey Davis is coming from. With a wife and 2 kids, I want to go be dad. I don't want to necessarily keep beating my body up.
Yeah, I mean, look, whatever his reasoning is for retiring early and for retiring at this stage, clearly he's thought a lot about it. Obviously, he's missed time the last week, maybe even more, with a personal reason. With there's an excused absence, so I didn't want to speculate. I know some people were speculating what was going on. I didn't feel like it was my place, but now we see what that is. For Corey Davis, I'm happy he's made this decision for him. If this is what he wants, this is best case for him, then I'm happy he's taking care of his body. I'm happy he's taking care of his mental health, whatever it is. There's a lot of implications as to what this means for the Jets. I already know we have a couple people in chat asking about the salary cap implications. To my knowledge, I believe the Jets did not restructure his contract, which means I don't think he had any guaranteed money left on his deal, which, unless there's something that we don't know about, I think the Jets get that money back. I'm pretty sure that's how it works if there's no guaranteed money left on the deal. Because
I think the base salary is what gets voided when you retire.
Maybe.
So I don't know if there's anything else in there,
which is $10.5 million. So that's a lot of money. If the Jets get the money back, I don't know. I have no idea what. I'm not confident on that. Don't quote me on that. But to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure if there's no guaranteed money left on the deal, then whatever is the base or whatever because his base is 10.5. His bonus is around 670,000 or whatever it is. That's prorated as well. So I believe that they get back the 10 or 10.5 million, which is also what Brian in chat is saying, the same thing, that the Jets will get the 10 million back once they put him on a reserve retired list. Yeah, I believe that is correct. This is a stunner. This is obviously wild. Again, for Corey Davis, I respect his decision. I'm very happy for him if this is what he believes is the best decision. But for the Jets, this decimates I don't want to say decimates, but it definitely negatively affects their wide receiver depth that they have. It puts a lot of stress on someone like Allen Lazard and another guy they signed in Mecole Hardman. I think we've already kind of gotten hints at it over the last couple days and week that Randall Cobb might play a bigger role at the team. I think that's definitely going to be true now. And I also think this opens up the opportunity for the Jets to potentially go out and make another addition, especially because it does seem like they will have that 10 or 10.5 million, whatever it's going to be. Now, the Jets have a ton of cap space. They have a ton of financial flexibility to go out there and make a wide receiver addition. I'm not saying it's going to be a Devontae Adams, but whoever, right? Whether it's a trade, I don't know if there's really anybody in free agency that would move the needle much. But yeah, a total stunner here, a shocker. This is the second time, Mike, that we have done a show and had a significant wide receiver on the Jets be gone. I guess, Elijah Moore retired, or not retired. Elijah Moore was traded. not retired. I'm mixing it up. Elijah Moore was traded live on the show. Now, legit, as you're doing the ad read 2 minutes into the show, Corey Davis retires. And yeah, as Zachary Berner in chat says as well, this could open up the opportunity for someone like Jason Brownlee or Xavier Gibson or even Malik Taylor to make the roster. Because, spoiler, I know we were about to do our 53-man roster predictions in a little bit. I had the Jets carrying 5 receivers. I didn't have Jason Brownlee, Xavier Gibson, or Malik Taylor making the team. So now
I think at least one of them is, maybe both. Definitely right. One.
Now, I think the edge would go to Malik Taylor. That's my assumption here. I think the edge goes to him. Gibson, if they trust him on special teams, that would be his route to making it. Brownlee feels like more of a practice squad guy to me. I think he's tailed off a little bit, but who knows now? Because Brownlee kind of replicates the player that you want Corey Davis to be. So I think
that's what I'm thinking.
Right, maybe that gives him a shot. I don't know. We're trying to think on our feet here, but A
I'm
stunner for
looking
the
at the
Jets.
free agent wide receivers. I mean, it's not a very fruitful market. I mean, Kenny Golladay, I don't even want to entertain as an option right now. Julio Jones, who's, no. Look, Julio Jones, first ballot Hall of Famer, but I mean, he's too beaten up. Jarvis Landry, possibly, but I just don't think stylistically he's kind of anywhere close to Corey Davis. So if you want to target a Corey Davis replacement, I don't know if he's the guy. Sammy Watkins is still out there. Other than that, it's just a bunch of Quintez Cephas is suspended, so not him.
You know who I hear is out there?
Who's out there?
Denzel Mims.
Oh, that's a way for him. Imagine that now. He comes back triumphantly.
Denzel Mims returns. He's out there. I bet NYJ Matt's going to make the I'm Coming Home video because he's out there right now. I think he already made it.
Brian has a very nice idea. Kuntz is wide receiver 5. Just put him near a cornerback and do jump balls. I mean,
yeah. It could open up the opportunity for 4. I don't know about 5 tight ends to make it, but definitely 4, maybe. Like, I would like this. Also, you could use some of those running backs out wide. Like Breece Hall can definitely be used in that role. Dalvin Cook can be used in that role. I would not be surprised at all if the Jets do that. Maybe they do only carry 5 wide receivers, and maybe it opens up a spot for, I don't know, Zonovan Knight or something, or another skill position player that maybe they want to use in that role. I mean, if we're talking trade candidates, obviously the big names like Devontae Adams come to mind. If they could ever find a way to somehow get Mike Evans, that would be insane. Again, that doesn't feel like something that'll happen before the season. And I also don't get the sense that Corey Davis was solidly in the Jets' plans as a guy who's going to play 70% of snaps. So I don't know if they will be super motivated to make a move right now, or at least a high-profile move, but they have the cap space to do it. They have the financial flexibility, and they obviously have the need, because we've talked about it a lot this offseason. I was very much in the go and get DeAndre Hopkins camp. That was definitely my opinion. Now I think that, I mean, not to use this as an excuse or as a reason for that, but it definitely looks like something that they could have done, or at least address the wide receiver position more than they did, because I'm not super high on Allen Lazard, as you know. Mecole Hardman is what he is. I think he's a fine 3 or a 4, and then Randall Cobb's a 4 or a 5 at this stage. So I'm not confident at all about the Jets wide receiver depth. I already wasn't confident when they had Corey Davis. Now I'd really like to see the Jets make some sort of a move, whether it's a trade, whether it's, there's not really anybody that they could sign. I mean, Julio is not Julio. He's not even half of Julio at this stage. Denzel Mims is Denzel.
I feel like it might actually end up, though, being Julio in terms of, veteran guy, ring chaser. I mean, Aaron Rodgers would probably say, yeah, bring him on. Like, I feel like there's a lot of dots leading there. I also, maybe this is just me being overly optimistic galaxy brain. I remember early on, I heard a bunch of like, oh, there's no way they're going to get Devontae Adams earlier on. And yeah, there was no way early on. Like, if the Raiders are like 1-7 or close to the deadline, I mean, maybe. I mean, now they have more tools at their disposal to accommodate that big contract. I mean, don't expect that to happen. But
right.
I think we're at that point now where it's like, don't rule it out. And again, like, I also don't want to talk about like Corey Davis like he's just a piece of meat too, or he's just like some guy they signed.
No, of course not.
Yeah, Corey Davis, it's a shame that it didn't work out really the way the Jets thought that it would, but I can't help but feel bad for the guy, because this is a guy who, I mean, even though I thought Marcus Mariota got done dirty in Tennessee, I thought that part of it was too that Corey Davis didn't have great offensive coaching for really his entire career. And the 1 year where it looked like he was really going to kind of hit his stride, 2020, where he gets 1,000 yards in 14 games, then he ends up going to Zach Wilson. That kind of takes the wind out of his sails. But this is a guy who I think still has the all-time college record for receiving yards. I think 4-year guy at Western Michigan. So he's
really productive in college.
He's an accomplished receiver, great blocker, great leader. Just, the kind of guy you want on your team. Seemed like everybody loved him too. So, like, this is not to make it sound hokey or that it's like to get overly emotional, but this is going to impact the locker room, because I think the guys liked having Corey Davis around. So, as much as we like Xavier Gibson and Jason Brownlee, they can't bring that moxie with them.
What if the Jets just say screw it and they go out and trade for Jonathan Taylor, and they say, all right, we got 3 great running backs.
And they run the triple option.
Yeah, they just or they could stick Cook out at receiver or Hall at receiver. Honestly, another one that I could think of is like, what if they traded for like Cordero Patterson or something? I don't know. I'm just thinking of guys who could be on the move. Patterson's kind of, I don't know, buried on the depth chart, but they got Bijan Robinson, they got Tyler Algier. I mean, obviously he's been playing running back a lot in Atlanta, but maybe that's someone. I'm trying to think on the fly. I haven't been able to, come up with a list. This happened 2 minutes into the show. If anybody has ideas, please talk about it in chat. I would love to discuss this stuff. Maybe
Put
someone
Trey
like
Lance there.
Trey Lance there. Maybe, I mean, they're not going to probably trade with the Patriots, but the New England's kind of got a lot of guys in that room, like maybe a Kendrick Bourne or something could be. He has experience with Saleh too, dating back to their time in San Francisco. So maybe someone like, I mean, I don't know if the Patriots would do that, but Kendrick Bourne, maybe. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of other guys.
Denver starts imploding.
Judy, maybe. I know Denver's asking price has been very high for Judy, but maybe that changes if they're going south. Obviously, the new coaching staff has no ties to him. So maybe that's someone in like Cleveland, like Anthony Schwartz in Cleveland, maybe could be. He's another guy who's kind of buried on the depth chart. Hasn't really done a ton
there. It's tough too, though, because like we can name all these receivers, but like Davis played a part for them stylistically. Like even when they could have promoted other younger guys, cough, Denzel Mims, they said, no, we're going to keep playing Davis, partially because they really liked what he did as a blocker, and it really helped their running game. So, there's not just guys like that aren't out there. So it's going to be tough. I mean, Lazard is a good blocker for a receiver. I think that's part of why they paid what they did to get him. I think Cobb tries, and he is a veteran guy who, kind of knows how to use angles and things like that. Like, he's okay in that regard. Hardman is not because he's small, but it's going to be the running game might actually suffer because of this. Not that Corey Davis is going to make the Jets make opponents be like, oh, we can put 8 in the box now. But, I mean, he's a weapon they don't have anymore.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I think I was of the opinion that Corey Davis was the second best wide receiver on this roster. I've said that a lot this offseason, and I guess I can't believe it's true anymore. But when he was on the roster, I do believe he was the second best wide receiver on the roster. And a lot of that was because of his blocking ability. He was an excellent blocker, and he really did open up holes in the running game. I think Lazard can fill that role, and the Jets will be looking to him to fill that role. But it's not like this is a sizable loss. It's not like Garrett Wilson retired, but it's still a sizable loss. Other guys I'm looking out there, like other free agents. I know Brian just brought it up in chat as well. Sammy Watkins is still out there. Sure. Jarvis Landry. All right. I think maybe he's got a little bit more left in the tank. Maybe. I mean, there's a reason he's a free agent, but still. Old friend Andre Roberts, if we're going that route. Oh, yo, Jake Kumaro.
Oh, it's going. Oh, no. It's still going to be Kumaro. Oh, I didn't even consider that.
Was just at the Packers-Patriots game, weirdly enough, this past Saturday, and I saw a Jay Kumaro jersey, and I couldn't help but think maybe he wants to reunite with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know.
Also confirmed via my sports update, who actually is one of the one good aggregator.
Shout out Ari. Yep.
Yeah, the one good one of those guys, I would say. Looking at you, you know who you are.
Yep.
but he said the Jets will clear another $10 million in salary cap space because the salary was not guaranteed for the year. So it's official.
That makes sense.
That money's coming up. So
sign Jordy Nelson. Brian says in chat, Jordy Nelson. Let's bring back Donald Driver. Let's bring them all back.
You're Michael Finley.
Doesn't
he hate Aaron Rodgers?
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he had beef with Rodgers.
He hate him.
Maybe not him. But yeah, this is wild. This is absolutely wild. Crazy that this happened as you were doing the ad. Literally, you could watch that back as you're doing the ad read. My face just goes like this because I saw the notification.
Yeah, I'm like, I thought I was doing a pretty good job with the ad read. I'm like, what are you going to criticize it or?
You did phenomenal. I'm just like,
that's what I thought it was. I'm like, wait a minute, don't upstage this.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about with Corey Davis. Obviously, this was not planned. If anybody else in chat has other ideas for players that the Jets can go out and trade for, can sign. There's not a lot out there. I'd love to talk about. I mean, T.Y. Hilton. Jeff Smith was waived by the Giants.
We're talking about upgrades here.
I mean, at this stage, can you? There's not much of an upgrade unless you're trade. Like, you're not going to find an upgrade in free agency. If you're going to upgrade, you're going to trade. Now, $10 million's a lot. Like, $10 million's a lot that they could do. If they now have what was their cap space before this? The Jets. What was the cap space after the Cook signing? Do you know off the top of your head?
I'm not sure off the top.
It was about $10 million. So they basically just doubled their cap space, which that's very significant. At this stage, having $20 million in cap space.
I like Jimmy's idea too. Any high-priced O linemen that are under the cap.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, we mentioned beforehand, free agency. No, there really aren't. Like, we've looked at the options. It's like Jason Peters, who's 76 years old. So we don't want to necessarily. I don't know if that's necessarily the best option. I know he wants to play for the Jets, but let's be practical here.
Well, he said he's open to it. I think that headline got twisted. He's open to it because, of course, he is. He's open to playing for any team.
But maybe there's a guy in the trade market. But then again, if you're a team with how in short supply offensive linemen are, if there's an offensive lineman on a team who's being traded, that isn't like contract related, I'm like, something about that would kind of weird me out.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, first of all respect to Corey Davis.
Yep.
I really appreciate everything he did for the Jets and in his career. And he, by all accounts, was a great locker room guy. And it's not an easy guy to replace. But from a purely, looking at it from the Jets perspective, this does open up some opportunities for him. They do have some cap space. Brian in chat brings up another interesting player here. Jonah Williams of the Bengals could be on the move. That would be pretty cool. He's a very versatile player as well. I believe he can play all 5 offensive line positions, or at least
he can play there. Well is different than play.
Because he played center at Bama, right? He went to Bama.
I think he started as a guard, then he went to left tackle, then he got hurt and missed a year. Jonah Williams got some baggage too. So he's not a terrible option, but
Right. So that's another option. Honestly, look, and we'll talk about the O-line in a sec. I mean, we could transition into that if we want, but if Mekhi Becton can hold up, and obviously Dwayne Brown, if there's a lot of ifs, but if those guys stay healthy, I don't have significant concerns about the Jets' offensive line, at least given what we've seen from Becton at right tackle to this point. Obviously, you can always do with more depth there, and I think they can absolutely still look to make an addition. But right now, my bigger concern after the Corey Davis retirement is skill position. I just think they need another guy in there. And they're good time. The good thing is there is time. There is time, and I think that they absolutely might make a move at the deadline. They have plenty of cap space. Maybe they try and make a move before week 1. I don't know. Obviously, the pipe dreams are Devontae Adams and Mike Evans. I feel like those are solidly the pipe dreams that are flirting with the idea of realistic. They're pipe dreams, but they could happen. We're not saying trade for Justin Jefferson because that's not going to happen.
Would be awesome, but
yeah, it'd be great. Imagine Justin Jefferson in any offense. He's pretty great. But yeah, it does, at least from the Jets' perspective, this opens up more doors for them, I guess. It gives them more financial flexibility to make moves, whether it's before week 1 or at the deadline. But wow, man, what
I received a text. Someone said Antonio Brown, and no.
What a story. He retires against the Jets and makes his comeback for them. What a story. What if he really wants to play with Aaron Rodgers? And that's the whole, that's why he went to Tampa, because Brady wanted him.
Yeah, and then how'd that last? Now he's lashing out at Brady. I mean, that didn't even work out well. And he was living with the guy, for crying out loud.
I think we can safely say that Antonio Brown has played his last game in the NFL.
Corey Davis returning is more likely than Antonio Brown.
It definitely is.
Solid did also say, this was just a recent quote I saw on Twitter, where he said that if Corey Davis wants to return, we'll welcome him back. He said, quote, he always has a family here. So
right. And apparently, according to Rich Cimini, this was not a sudden decision by Corey Davis, which I think we assumed. He told teammates before training camp that he was thinking of walking away, and that is why he missed OTAs, because Corey Davis did miss OTAs. He was not there, so he was thinking about this for a while. And I don't think the Jets. I think what's interesting about that is it probably indicates the Jets are not shocked by this decision, which means that they weren't necessarily banking on him being there. So if they've known about this since the spring, if that's how long he's been trying to determine his future, the Jets aren't shocked by this. That honestly probably did play into their decision to sign Dalvin Cook and be as aggressive as they did. I believe someone in chat mentioned that before. They just need more skill players. That's really what it came down to. And as much as I was about the Dalvin Cook signing, I think that I am more on board with it now after Corey Davis retires, because you just got to get bodies in there. You got to get skill. You got to get players who are talented at the skill positions. And I think they have a shortage of those now, even after signing Dalvin Cook, but they have the means, they have the money, they have the finances, they have the flexibility. And if there's an opportunity there, I would not be surprised if the Jets pounced.
I respect that the last thing he ever did was gave us breaking news at an appropriate time and not 2 hours after this, so we couldn't talk about it.
Oh, man, dude, because we were to do 53-man roster predictions, which we could still do. But yeah, that was going to be, we were going to be like, Corey Davis, obviously a lock for the roster. Of course, definitely, for sure.
I mean, and he would have been starting probably in base personnel.
Cimini also pointing out, again, I don't know how much to read into this, but he said that Corey Davis technically never used the word retirement in his post. So I guess leaving the door for him to come back, I don't know. But presumably, presuming that the Jets...
Well, you said step away from the game. I mean, that sounds...
Yeah, I think Cimini's reading into that too much. I assume the Jets will place him on the reserve retire list, which once they do that, I believe he's done for the season. I don't think he could play this season because it's the reserve list.
You can come off it though, right? If you come
after
back.
the year, but I don't think if you place a player on a reserve list before the season starts, I don't believe they can return that season. That goes for PUP, that goes for IR. any of that. I believe it also works the same with retirement. Although I don't have an instance in my head that I can think of, but if it works, if it functions like a normal reserve list, that's how it works. But I believe he would be able to return next season in theory, although he's not under contract past this year. So, but I believe that they will place him. Brian Chad says you could be activated from the retired list. Can you mid-season?
If he's cut from the list.
If they cut him from, yeah, that's true. If you cut a player from the reserve retirement list, you could then re-sign them. That is true. That would be like a workaround to it. So yeah, I guess in theory, you can't be removed from it. You could just be released and then re-signed. So in theory, they could do that if he decides mid-season he wants to return. But either way, I imagine the Jets will place him on that list, free up a lot of cap space in the process, free up $10 million in cap space, and maybe do something from there. But I don't know, man. That's wild. What a wild start to the show, huh? We talked about
we didn't even get past the intro and Corey Davis.
Yeah, you're right. I cut you off.
We meet before this show. We had a whole plan, and then immediately we weren't even done saying, "Hey guys, how are you?"
Dude, if they did that like 5 minutes, or if that was announced like 5 minutes before that, Corey Davis was typing out his Instagram post as we were introducing the show. So that's wild. All right,
let's go into non-Corey Davis topics for a little bit, because I feel like we've gotten all our Corey Davis thoughts pretty much out there. Let's go and talk about the guy who was supposed to be the star of the show today, Mekhi Becton, playing at right tackle finally, which I don't know that he's necessarily going to be a Hall of Fame right tackle. But when I looked at Mekhi Becton, I was just really confused mostly how they were using him, because it seemed going into like the offseason and all that it was going to be Dwayne Brown at left tackle, Mekhi Becton goes over to right tackle, and then there's your offensive line. And then he starts playing at left tackle, and he's backing up, but he's also backing up Billy Turner, and he plays at the left in the preseason, and then they move him over to right a couple weeks beforehand, which is not as easy as, switching positions is not as easy as some people think it is. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, can we get serious for a minute? I know they're nervous about his health, especially at right tackle, because they think playing him at right tackle probably contributed to the injuries that he had recently. But honestly, if that's a thought, then don't play him there. If you're that scared, if you're that petrified. So finally, they get rid of that boogeyman, and they put him over at right tackle. And you know what? Even though it's only a limited amount of time in a preseason game and a couple of practices where it's really tough to gauge how good offensive line play is, because there's just a lot of things that you'd see in a game that aren't there, I'm pretty happy with what I saw out of Mekhi Becton. He was moving well. He was strong. He was aggressive. He was pancaking people. That's the Mekhi Becton we thought we were getting out of Louisville. And and he's doing it because he did not want to do this. Remember, I am a left tackle, the tweet? He did not want to do this. And he's doing it with nice maturity and nice aplomb. There's no bombast. There's no, I'm only here because my coaches are doing this. Like, I like that he's taken to this role.
Yeah, I couldn't be happier for and about the latest development with Mekhi Becton. Obviously, the assumption was dating back to the spring, dating back to even before the draft, that Mekhi Becton was going to be one of the Jets' 2 starting tackles going into the year. And the assumption was that he would be playing right tackle. But over time, it quickly became apparent that the Jets really didn't see it that way, or at least wanted to ease him into that role. And it may have took a long time, but we've finally gotten there. Maybe it took Max Mitchell and Billy Turner clearly not being starting options, but either way, we're here. And Mekhi Becton is not only getting snaps at right tackle, but he is running as the first team right tackle. He started in the Bucs game and played excellent. He played very, very well. And I could not be happier for the dude, because he put in so much work this offseason to not only come back from 2 knee injuries, but to lose over 50 pounds. That is very difficult. That is very, very difficult to do. And he deserves a lot of credit for transforming his body and for getting in shape and just being healthy right now. Like, that's the most important thing for him, is he feels healthy. He looks healthy, and the Jets seem to be trusting him now at that starting position. I think the ceiling of this offensive line is pretty high if everyone can stay healthy. That's obviously a big if. Dwayne Brown is pushing 40. He's coming off offseason shoulder surgery. He is yet to practice, although he did return from the PUP list. I don't believe he practiced today. He should be soon, but obviously he's a question mark. Mekhi Becton obviously is a question mark if he starts at right tackle. He's played 1 game over the last 2 years, but if everyone stays healthy, I think the Jets can be a top 12 offensive line. I truly believe that, pushing top 10 in an absolute best case scenario. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. Injuries happen, whether it's to Becton and Brown or someone else. injuries happen, players disappoint, whatever. But I'd love to see someone like Laken Tomlinson have a bounce back year. I want to see Dwayne Brown, what he has left when he's actually healthy, because he wasn't healthy all of last year. And obviously, we want to see Mekhi Becton out there kicking ass and dominating at right tackle, because obviously it's a contract year for him. So not only is it important for the Jets this season that he plays well, but he can still work his way into the future consideration, whether it's at right tackle or left tackle, if he plays well this season. So very, very happy with the development with Mekhi Becton, if only because it means we're hopefully not going to see Billy Turner or Max Mitchell starting week 1. At least that's the hope.
See, I'm not as optimistic as you. Like, I think the offensive line is still generally I don't know about like bad or in like an awful, unwatchable way. I still think it's below average. I think their ceiling is probably straight middle of the pack, 15, 16. That's kind of where they are. Would you love a great offensive line? Obviously. Is having a top 15 or 16 a death sentence? I don't know necessarily, especially when you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. But let's just take the optimistic picture for a little. Let's just go, position by position. Dwayne Brown, potential Hall of Famer. You look at his career, he has a case. I don't know if he's in. There's going to be arguments about him. I find it hard to believe that if he's fully healthy, even at this age, he's not Jason Peters level where he's 41. He was a backup recently who kept getting hurt. Like, Dwayne Brown is 37, I think.
Yeah, 37, 38, whatever.
Like, we've seen guys be good at that age. We've seen guys put together high-level seasons for championship teams. Andrew Whitworth at ages like that. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Andrew Whitworth was late in his career, but even though he was banged up last year, pretty serviceable tackle for an old, beat-up guy who's playing with like 1.5 arms at an offensive line. Not terrible. You go to Laken Tomlinson. I know some guys disappoint as free agents. I find it hard to believe a guy who was a Pro Bowl lineman and started multiple years for a very good 49ers team that loves running the ball and has built one of the most consistent offenses in the league just forgot how to play offensive line. Especially when a lot of his San Francisco coaches, I think didn't they have the exact offensive line coach come from San Francisco when Saleh came over?
Yeah, it was John Benton, right?
Yeah, John Benton. I think he was the O-line coach. So, I mean, it's the same guy. Like, I find it hard to believe. I know they got a different guy in later, but, like, I find it hard to believe that he just completely is like, duh, how do I play football? Like, I think he'll have a bounce back year. The center spot, it looks like it's Connor McGovern's job. It will eventually be Joe Tippmann's job, but for right now, it's McGovern. McGovern's not a flashy guy. He's not particularly sexy as a player. Guy gets the job done. You go to Elijah Vera Tucker, top 10 in his position right now. He hits the accelerator. He's top 5 at the position. And with the new CBA limiting practices, so offensive line doesn't get as much like contact and it's harder for them to really like develop and work on things. Having a guy who's a top 10 guard who could be a top 5 guard is an incredibly valuable asset that the Jets should be thrilled to have. And then obviously we discussed Becton at right tackle could maybe start filling up and, playing like the guy that we thought he would be out of Louisville. So, I mean, there's a situation where they could be pretty good. I think just watching Billy Turner and Max Mitchell kind of made it seem like the sky was falling because what's the old saying? Chain's only strong as its weakest link. Like, if one guy is faltering, like good defensive coordinators will keep beating up on him, and then that'll percolate to the entire offensive line, and they'll all start feeling that. So now this unit looked a little bit more cohesive with Becton in it. I think some of the fears can be kind of tamped down a little bit.
I agree. I think there were some premature reports out there, tweets, takes, whatever you want to say, opinions about the Jets offensive line being awful when they were running maybe one or two of their week 1 starters out there. I mean, you had Wes Schweitzer out there at right guard. You had Max Mitchell and Billy Turner at tackle. They weren't at full strength, especially I think this offensive line does not work without Elijah Vera Tucker. We saw that last year. As soon as he went down, I've talked about this a lot this offseason, but as much as the Breece Hall injury killed the Jets offense, the Elijah Vera Tucker injury killed it just as much, if not more. That offensive line was decimated by the end of the year, but they were held together by Elijah Vera Tucker. So him missing some time this summer, I know they're still kind of working a load management thing with him, kind of working with that ankle, but if he's out there, that unit is completely different. So I think that him missing those days of practice and seeing Schweitzer out there with Turner and Mitchell, yeah, I'm not shocked at all that the Jets offensive line struggled both in regular team drills and in joint practices. So having now Mekhi Becton at right tackle, having Dwayne Brown back, of course, having Tomlinson and Vera Tucker back in the starting lineup, it gives you a better idea of what the Jets offensive line is going to look like week 1. And again, I'm not saying I think they're going to be top 12 or top 10, but I think if everyone hits their ceiling, if everyone hits their stride at the right time, they have that potential. Like they have that potential. And I don't think we would have said that about the Jets offensive line with Billy Turner in the starting lineup or even Max Mitchell. So I think that's why it's such a huge development that Becton is here. I've said it multiple times this offseason before we even got to training camp that besides, Aaron Rodgers, besides the obvious, Mekhi Becton was the X factor for this Jets team this year because the offensive line is crucial for this offense finding success, obviously, as it is for every team. But I think specifically with this Jets team, when you have an aging quarterback in Aaron Rodgers that you've invested so much in, you need the offensive line to be steady. You need the offensive line to at least be competent. And they didn't have a competent right tackle unless Mekhi Becton stepped up. So I'm really, really, really happy, not only for him, but for the sake of this entire Jets offense that he's come out and killed it in the way that he has.
So let's move on to the 53-man roster little thing that we teased earlier, because I think our original plans kind of got blown out of the water because a guy who was a lock and Corey Davis just said he was retiring. But I want to put the wide receivers, I want to put them just to the side for 1 minute because we know that probably one of the Brownlee, Gibson, Taylor trio is making the roster, and probably two of them, honestly, if they don't really add anybody else. So I want to go look at some of the other positions out there where there's been a bunch of camp battles, bunch of guys who are on the fringe. Are they a practice squad guy? Can we keep them? Tight end, defensive back. There's a couple of those. One guy that I now, even with the Brownlees, because I really like Brownlee, he's my favorite of the three. If they don't put this particular guy on the roster, this guy being Trey Dean, if he doesn't make the 53, I'm legitimately going to be surprised. Now, I know he's competing with Ashton Davis, who actually, to his credit, has kind of balled out this preseason. Like against Tampa, he was all over the place. 4 tackles for loss, showing off the great speed. Trey Dean was just as good. And part of the reason I'm so bullish on Trey Dean is because there's no way he should have gone undrafted. This guy was a 5-star recruit, one of the top defensive backs in his class, played a bunch of years at Florida, and really it was his testing that hurt him. He was banged up. I think he had a hip injury at the time, and his 40 was really slow. And I think he had a couple minor injuries early in his college career. That didn't help him either. But talent-wise, there's no way this dude should have even made it past the 4th or 5th round. This guy's a steal. And I think he's performed it like that right now. So on a team that's willing to elevate Tony Adams from undrafted to position of prominence, I feel like eventually Dean could be on that same path if they keep him. Is there one guy that you think could really stand out, Justin, or one guy that has to be on your 53?
Well, first I'll comment on the Trey Dean thing because I actually have him not making the team. And it was a tough call. It was a tough call for me because I also really like Trey Dean. And I think the thing that is most working in his favor over Ashton Davis is I think the Jets might run a lot of 3 safety sets this year and have a guy like Adrian Amos or Jordan Whitehead kind of drop into that box as more of a third linebacker role. And I think Trey Dean fits that role a lot better than someone like Ashton Davis does. Someone like Marquise Waters also fits that role. And I think he's someone they'll keep around in the practice squad to kind of develop in that hybrid role maybe. But I really like Trey Dean, and I think he's played well in every single preseason game to this point. But I think when in doubt, I'm just going to say the Jets stick with the old guard. They go with the guy who they know is a good special teamer, and they go with Ashton Davis. I'm not saying that's what I would do. This is my prediction for what they will do. The Jets can save around I think $2.5 million, $2.7 million by cutting Ashton Davis, but I think that even matters less now after the Corey Davis retirement because they are definitely not worried about money. They're not worried about cash. So I don't really think that will play much of a role. I would like to keep Trey Dean, and I think the Jets will absolutely try to keep him on their practice squad. I would not be shocked at all if he makes the roster, but I do have Ashton Davis making it over him. Let me look because I did have to just change a couple things after the Corey Davis thing. We don't have to talk about wide receivers yet because that is definitely altered with the Corey Davis news. I do have, just as a side note for mine, 3 guys who are on the roster, but not because they're either suspended or on the PUP, which for my projection, obviously Brandon Echols is suspended, so he won't be on the week 153. I do have Jarek Bernard Converse on the PUP, and I also put Carter Warren there. I don't know if either of them will be ready. Complete speculation on my part, but I would not be surprised if both of those players started the year on the PUP.
Maybe we're unlucky. We got interviews with both of them, and they're both hurt.
You're actually right. Those are the two players of the Jets.
Thomas Morstead, watch out! Don't go near any like steep cliffs or anything, or any weird changes in elevation.
That would be awful, dude. That would be so bad.
Maybe if you do it twice, like we did with Morstead, it like reverses it. So we got to get him back on.
We got to interview them again. That's a great point. I didn't realize that. That's pretty funny. I do have the toughest call for me was linebacker, because I see a lot of projections having the Jets carry 4 linebackers. I gave them a 5th, and I have Chaz Surratt making the team, along with CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, Jamie Sherwood, and Zaire Barnes. That I would not be surprised at all if it doesn't happen. My rationale for it was I had Ashton Davis making it over Trey Dean, so I wanted another guy who could play that linebacker role, and I really do like Chaz Surratt. I really do. And now that he's back, I believe he's returned to practice. If he shows out in that Giants game, he can make a strong case for the 53, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he makes it, because the dude can play special teams too. He's an athlete, and that's the best thing he's got going for him. So I do have Surratt making it. I don't know what your take on that is, if you think that is something that's not going to happen.
Surratt has played well, and again, I think teams like this do take kind of their pedigree into account. This guy was a 3rd-round pick, very talented, and I think just stylistically, that's kind of what Robert Saleh likes in his linebackers. I don't know if he'll make it. I think he's like the first guy off the practice squad if anybody gets hurt. I think that's kind of where he stands right now. How many running backs do you have making the final roster?
So
Abanacan is not on PUP, you think, or
what was it? Say again?
Abanacan is not going to be on PUP because he just.
I don't think so. What it sounds like is the Jets said 2 weeks, which makes me think he'll be ready for week 1. If he's not ready for week 1, then yeah, PUP, and he's not on the week 1 roster. But I'm assuming he will be ready. If he's not, that changes things. But I have 4 plus Nick Bawden. I do have Nick Bawden making it, which is interesting. I kind of group fullbacks and tight ends together because I think if they don't carry Bawden, they'll carry an extra tight end. If they do carry Bawden, that'll remove a roster spot for a tight end. That's kind of how I approach that.
I think they'll carry Bawden, and then I think Kuntz is the practice squad guy. So
agreed. That is also what I have. I have them carrying Bawden, also Michael Carter over Zonovan Knight, which isn't a lock, but seems pretty certain at this time, especially since Carter did not suit up for the Bucs game.
And Knight fumbled, so
and Knight certainly did not help his case in that game. What do you have at quarterback? Do you have the Jets carrying 3 quarterbacks?
I only have them carrying 2.
Ooh, interesting.
I'm going Rodgers and Wilson, then Tim Boyle on the practice squad, and they can elevate Tim Boyle if they need to, if something really happens.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that the main goal is, I know we've talked about the defensive line rotation all the time. I'm trying come hell or high water to make sure there are 10 defensive linemen on this active roster.
Yes. I think
that was one of the casualties.
The only way there won't be 10 defensive linemen on the roster is if someone gets traded. I don't think any of the Jets or someone gets hurt. Like any of the top 10 guys on the Jets defensive line right now, none of them are getting cut. We're talking Quentin Williams, Al Woods, Quentin Jefferson, Solomon Thomas, Carl Lawson, John Franklin Myers, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Bryce Huff, Michael Clemens. I don't think any of those guys are in danger of getting cut. The only one I could see not being there, barring injury, we don't know about Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson's another guy who could start the year on the IR. I believe it would be the IR for him. But Bryce Huff is, the other guy that maybe he's traded. I don't know, because I still am not sure if he's going to be active week 1. But that would be the other one. I do have them carrying 3 quarterbacks, mostly just because of the new QB rule. Because for that third QB, that emergency QB to be active on game days, they need to be on the 53-man roster. They don't count towards the active player limit. So you can have that like 48th player active if it's the third quarterback. And I believe they can only play if the first 2 quarterbacks get hurt. But I think that's going to push teams to carry more third string quarterbacks. And Tim Boyle, we know he's a favorite of Aaron Rodgers. We know he's a favorite of Nathaniel Hackett. So I think that might give him the edge. I wouldn't be shocked if they put him on the practice squad. It's not necessarily I don't think anyone's going to pick him up. He'll be on the roster in some way. But I do think that they will carry Tim Boyle. I love Dennis in chat really quick saying, who's the third string quarterback? Boyle is terrible. I don't disagree.
We know.
I don't fully disagree.
The third quarterback.
Yeah, I don't fully disagree, but there are only 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now because Chris Trevler was waived, injured, and I believe now they reached an injury settlement. So there's only 3 guys. So it's got to be Boyle.
If he wasn't, he wouldn't be here anyway. So
right, it's going to be Boyle one way or another.
I want to get to a comment from Jimmy really quick. Jimmy Schnugen. in chat who said, I'm a Kutztown U alum. I think Andre Reed went there too.
Yes, he did.
Went to Kutztown. So I'm rooting for Jerome Cap to make the roster. Is there any chance that? Which first off, go Bears. Kutztown is the Bears, I think. So go Bears.
Are they the Bears?
I think they are.
Maybe.
And the Golden Bears or something.
I think it's the Golden Bears.
I think they changed it.
No, they're the Golden Bears. I mean, unless
the Golden Bears. Okay,
unless Wiki's wrong, you know.
All right. Well, I got half right. I was half right with the Bears.
Yeah.
But a slight chance. I mean, he's impressed. I don't think I haven't really heard a ton of bad things to say about Jerome Cap. We know that he is a very talented singer based on what we saw on Hard Knocks.
Absolutely.
But again, it just comes down to like we've been talking about this whole main trio, the top three being Brownlee, Gibson, and Taylor of the undrafted guys who could make it in. I mean, maybe if you want to expand that to Cap, possibly.
He's probably a practice squad guy.
I think he's a practice squad guy, but I mean, if they said, you know what, Jerome Cap beat out some of those other guys, like it wouldn't shock me. It could happen.
I'd be very surprised if he was on the 53-man roster. I think Jimmy was just asking practice squad too. I think there's
practice squad. Practice squad. I think he's almost a lot.
I think there's a good chance he's on the practice squad for sure. If only for vibes at this point. You got to keep him around. You know, maybe he can rap a little bit more. That was excellent. That was obviously I would say the quintessential Hard Knocks moment. I'm pulling.
Oh boy, we almost got a
Tanzel Smart
flip there.
That was a Carcucci moment. That was a Tanzel Smart moment right there. That's amazing. Please clip that. That's great. That was
I know it's on HBO and they're explicit, but I mean this is ridiculous.
The quintessential Hard Knocks moment. Oh God, that's great.
Chip Press after dark.
That was fantastic. Yeah, this is towards the end of the show, so that's fantastic. But yeah, I think Jerome Cap could absolutely beat. I'm like watching every word I'm saying now. I think Jerome Cap could definitely stick around in the practice squad. He did a lot of really good things in OTAs. Hasn't really popped that much this summer. But yeah, also I need to take a drink after that. Hold on.
Whew. It really got you all hot and bothered, huh?
Because I heard it immediately and I'm like, God, there's no one doing that. That was sad.
Oh dear. So now that we're past, funny wordplay.
Well, what wide receivers do you have making it? Because we haven't really talked about that.
Well, now that Davis is gone, Wilson, Lazard, who's now the wide receiver too.
I think he was already wide receiver too, regardless. But
despite your objections,
right.
Hardman, Cobb,
yep,
Brownlee. That's definite. Those are the five I think that are definite. And
you think Brownlee's a definite?
If I had my druthers, I think he's a definite, especially because of the Davis retirement too. Because again, they got Lazard, but if you want a guy stylistically who's similar, of the three, he's the most like Corey Davis.
Right.
And if they want to keep another one, honestly, I know that Malik Taylor's got the Rodgers connection. I just think Gibson gives you returner value. Like if they don't want to use Hardman that way, like if he's too valuable as like the number 3 receiver now, and they don't want him running back kicks, I think that's good for Gibson.
Yeah, I feel like I don't think Brownlee is a lock. I think stylistically he makes the most sense as your replacement for Davis, but I also think they're kind of just going to lean on Lazard for that role. I think Malik Taylor is the most likely of the three, and maybe that's just me overrating his connection with Rodgers and Hackett, but he has made plays this summer. Brownlee's kind of fallen off a little bit. I mean, he made a couple catches, I think, in the Bucs game, but I think Brownlee makes more sense as someone you want to keep around to develop on the practice squad. That being said, they did give him a ton of guaranteed money. I think it's like $250,000, which that's more than Kuntz. That's more than, I don't know if that's more than any other drafted player on the roster, but it's more than a lot of 7th round picks. So that is definitely working in his favor to stick around. Gibson, it really just comes down to, like you said, who do they want to return kicks? If Gibson proves that he's the best return option, they will give him a job and they'll give him a roster spot. And that's why he's been getting all of the first team reps as a returner, at least in games. He's been the guy that they've turned to for that. So they're really giving him an extended look there. If it is Gibson, I think they got a pretty small wide receiver room because, I would say Hardman, Cobb, and Gibson are all really slot guys. Like Hardman, you could probably play on the outside a little bit, but they're all do their best work in the slot, meaning that you really have Garrett Wilson who can play everywhere. Alan Lazard's an outside guy for sure. And then
you throw him in the slot, get some mismatches. I don't know.
Maybe as a big slot, maybe. I don't know how much Green Bay used him there, but Gibson would be, he would make more sense to me with Corey Davis there. But really, if they want to use him as their top returner, then he'll be there. So what I did was, after the Corey Davis retirement, I quickly went in and I have Malik Taylor making it. I think that he would be the most solid in my mind of making it. I then took off because I had a fourth tight end making it. I had Kenny Yeboah making it, who I don't have making it now because I did give them a sixth wide receiver and I put Jason Brownlee, ? Because basically that's me saying Jason Brownlee or another addition. That's kind of how I'm thinking of it in my mind. I think if they were to go with the guys on the roster, Taylor and Brownlee would get the nod over Gibson. I just think that he's had a couple of uh-ohs in practice, a couple of mishaps in game where I don't fully trust him as a returner, especially over Hardman, who has plenty of experience doing it. Even Randall Cobb can do it. I don't trust Xavier Gibson at this stage. I don't know if the Jets do, but that's kind of my take on that. So I only have them carrying 3 tight ends, which that's fine because I have Bawden, and I have them carrying 6 wide receivers. Maybe it's Taylor and Brownlee. Maybe it's Brownlee and someone else. Maybe it's Taylor and someone else. I don't know. But I think that they definitely could make an addition, whether it's a roster cut, whether it's a trade. I don't know. But that's the one position that really I don't have a solid answer now. Corey Davis retiring definitely changes plans.
And before we sign off, we're going to do another quick little what to watch for. I want to try to do that ESPN what to watch for guy voice, but it would destroy my throat right now. So
sure,
I've met that guy too. So
wow, fun fact.
I actually was at ESPN, literally the studios once, and then they had the guys "Hey, how you doing?" And then he, shook his hand. Nice guy. So
thanks for sharing.
I don't know what I can't share my anecdotes in this podcast.
That's a wonderful anecdote. I appreciate you sharing that, Mike. Michael Joseph Luciano.
Yeah, yes, indeed. So before we sign off, let's go and take a look at the final preseason game, the 4th, because it's 3, but Hall of Fame game gave the Jets 4, where they're playing the New York Giants. And their typical, this is always a little thing for those of you who are just kind of a little more casual Jets fans. Typically, at the end of the preseason, if you're geographically next to another team, typically they play each other. The LA teams, the DMV teams, and as you saw with the Ravens and the Commanders, and Jets and Giants going at it in MetLife. And surprisingly, they're playing a lot of the starters in this game, including Aaron Rodgers. I think most of the starting offensive line, Dwayne Brown, I don't think will be out there because he's still working his way back. And Breece Hall is obviously the other one because he's still working his way back. But other than that, pretty much everybody is going to be out there. I don't think for too long. I think it maybe might be a series or two. Shake off the rust, make sure a couple, basic plays that we're going to run in the season. Obviously, everybody is scared of, why the hell are you playing them in the last preseason game? You never play the stars in the last preseason game. It's kind of an unwritten rule. But, Robert Saleh said you can't coach scared. And, I get that. This just feels like a little unnecessary. But all I want to see is literally, I want them to basically play in bubble wrap. Couple quick runs, couple quick passes. Don't hold the ball longer than 3. Take an intentional grounding. I don't care. Hold the ball 2 seconds. If it's not there, chuck it into the third row into the popcorn vendors. That's all I want to see right now. Maybe it gets the fans hyped up. Perfectly fine. Just try to keep things as steady as possible because there is a big Monday night game against Buffalo to open the season and a tough-ass schedule after that. Don't try to rock the boat.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to play any more than 1 or 2 series, like you said. Specifically Rodgers, especially because I don't expect Dwayne Brown to play, which likely means it will be Billy Turner starting at left tackle. And I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers take a 5-step drop with Billy Turner at left tackle. So I hope he's just handing the ball off. I hope he's just doing quick 3-step drops, maybe a screen pass, whatever. Something that's not going to get him hit, something that doesn't give Billy Turner any chance, any opportunity to injure Aaron Rodgers or even anybody on the offensive line, not just Billy Turner. I get why they're doing it. I have no real issues with them doing it. Most teams do it. Rodgers wanted to play. Rodgers is obviously new to the team. He's new to, I don't want to say new to the system, but it is a new environment. So I get why they say, hey, let's throw you out there in basically a simulated game situation, give you a couple series so that come week 1, this isn't your first time taking the field in an actual game situation. I get why they're doing that. I don't really have any issues with it. Obviously, you don't want to see anyone get hurt. I don't want to see a situation where, like with the Jets of old, Avery Williamson is playing in the 3rd quarter of a preseason game and he tears his ACL. I don't want to see any of that.
That was awful. I remember. Oh,
terrible. It was awful. And it was his own guy. I forget who it was, but his own guy hurt him. It was like a collision. But I don't want to see any of that. I don't want to see Elijah Vera Tucker on the field in the end of the second quarter. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Sauce Gardner out there in the second quarter. Give him 1 to 2 series. Let him run with the ones for a very brief period of time, and then that's it. It will be interesting to see a few guys that are, and as Brian says in chat too, have to get used to the MetLife turf. Yes, it is definitely
Didn't they
new.
replace it? Isn't it all new this year?
I think it is. Yeah, I believe they started that this year, and they did that for the World Cup. I think of all things, is why they had to
probably
do
because they were playing on essentially a green carpet on top of a parking lot. Is essentially what they were doing before. So
yeah, they definitely made some adjustments. Obviously, they have the Jets logo at center at midfield now. So
okay. Are the Jets the home team for this game?
I don't know, but they will have it if they are. I don't know if the Jets are the either way. It doesn't. I mean, they'll have the Jets or the Giants logo, but
right.
They'll have that. So. But yeah, I don't have any issues with them playing the starters. It'll be interesting to see a few guys trying to push for roster spots because, I mean, relating to what we were just talking about, a few of the guys that I had like just missing out that could potentially make some noise. Like, hey, if Zach Kuntz shows out in this last game, he could make some noise. He could push for a roster spot. We'll see what Zonovan Knight can do. I still think it's pretty unlikely he makes the 53 at this stage if everyone is healthy, unless Izzy Abanikanda misses week 1. Then obviously that changes. But he's going to get plenty of looks in this game. Not only for, helping his potential Jets future, but maybe is shopping him around and seeing if you can up his trade value. Other guys who I think could surprise and push for roster spots if they have a really strong last game, Jimmy Moreland. I think Jimmy Moreland, the corner, has outplayed Bryce Hall for most of the summer. I know Brandon Echols is missing week 1, so Bryce Hall's roster spot is probably safe, but if anybody's going to push him, it's going to be Moreland. And I think if he plays really well in this last game, he could kind of, put that final stamp on it. Someone like a Nick Vigil, I think he's a veteran linebacker with plenty of experience. If they wanted to keep around a veteran in that room behind, with the backups, then maybe he makes sense. I don't think someone like Tristan Colon makes it, but even the guys we were talking about before, like Trey Dean, if he wants to make this roster, same with Ashton Davis, if he wants to make this roster, show out against the Giants, prove that you deserve that spot. Who are real quick before we end it, because we're running a little long, but hey, Corey Davis, he derailed
things out of whack.
Right. So who are some of the guys you're looking at in this last game?
Well, I do want to see a lot of the receivers, the non-Corey Davis receiver room.
Yes.
Because obviously they're not going to tip their hand with the depth chart stuff. And we've seen guys like Alan Lazard, briefly early on, but you know what? Maybe really quick, maybe get a Mecole Hardman going down the field a little bit. Let me get some Garrett Wilson, 1 or 2 really cool plays in there. That's all I want to see. I just want to see a couple nice plays, and other than that, just run, take a knee punt. I'm not overly concerned about the outcome of this game. I want to see cool guys make cool plays, and then once they do one of them, all right, that's it, out of there. We're not risking it anymore. I think that's a pretty fair assessment too.
I like the phrase "watch cool guys make cool plays." I think that should be the.
That sounds like something Robert Saleh would say.
It does. That should be the tagline for the NFL preseason. Watch cool guys make cool plays.
Here's the thing too. One thing on Robert Saleh, because we didn't get too into Hard Knocks today.
Yeah.
One thing I know that Justin has familiarity with this program, but Boomer and Gio earlier, I think Gio actually made a point where I kind of respect, because I've always said before that Robert Saleh kind of has a weird cadence talking to people, or at least in press conferences, where he said, I don't think he's fake. I just think he's just naturally kind of corny, where he'll take these kind of motivational quote things and then pepper in a bunch of F words to him. And that's just kind of how he is. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I got from watching him.
Who defines corny, though? Because, someone who's corny to one person might be a leader of men to others. I think the players all look up to him and respect him. I think that's it, too. I just think, his speech patterns is kind of funny to me. I don't know. Maybe. He definitely has a specific, vibe to him, I guess. But I don't know. I don't find him corny.
I don't want to nitpick him too much. The guy's got Aaron Rodgers here and he's building a winner, but I don't know. Something about him.
Really quick, we'll get to one more question here from Zachary in chat. He said, how long would you like the starting O-line to play for? So if it was all five starters, if Dwayne Brown was playing, which I don't expect him to play, I probably would say the first quarter or something, just to get that chemistry together, the continuity. But I think it's going to be Billy Turner at left tackle. That's just my guess. I don't think they're going to have Dwayne Brown playing that game. If he does, my opinion changes. But if it's Billy Turner, if they have one of the backups out there, I don't think you gain as much from playing them. So really, basically, as long as Aaron Rodgers is out there, That's how long I want the starting offensive line out there. So whether that's 2 series, whatever it is, that's how long I'd want them. If Dwayne Brown plays, play him the first quarter, give them an entire quarter of football to play together, and that's pretty much it. 2, 3, 4 series, whatever that would be. But I presume that that's not going to be the case. But yeah, man, what a show. What a show.
What a crazy show, thrown off the rails almost immediately.
Yep.
By Corey Davis. But if you want to come back and see what crazy, wacky shenanigans happen next, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it may be that you get your podcasts. We are on all those sites and YouTube and TikTok. Both of them are at the Jet Press. Justin, let's wrap up this crazy hour of Jets content.
Dude, I'm just trying to think what Jets wide receiver is going to be involved in a transaction or whatever next. Didn't Denzel Mims also happen like right after we recorded or something?
That was right before.
Right before he was traded.
Yeah. That was enough time where we could be like, all right, Denzel Mims, we kind of look into it. It wasn't during the ad read 3 minutes in.
So basically, live on air, we've had Elijah Moore traded, we've had Corey Davis retire, and we've had Denzel Mims traded moments before we recorded, or at least shortly before. So
yes,
who knows what's going to happen next Wednesday? I guess we'll find out. Maybe the Jets will trade for Mike Evans right before we record. But anyway, if you want to see that and watch all of our Jet Press content, you can follow Mike on Twitter at by Mike Luciano. You can follow me on Twitter at Justin T. Freed. Follow Jet Press at the Jet Press. Download Jet Press Podcast wherever you get your podcast. Also check us out on YouTube, TikTok. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You guys know what to do. We stream live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all for listening to Jet Press Podcast. I've been Justin Freed. That has been Mike Luciano. We'll see you guys next time.
See you folks next week.